really low-key, kind of open session, and what I wanted to do was start with each panelist and ask a question, and then we'll open it up. If there's an awkward silence, I'll fill it in and ask my own question. But please, I don't want to make this the Leva hour, okay? So help me out. I'd first like to talk to Dr. Elaine Kim. Elaine, wonderful film. Have any of you seen the original Slaying the Dragon? Okay, Netflix. No, it's not on Netflix. Oh, sorry, this is like academic versus Hollywood. No, okay, I am an academician. That may not seem like it, but I am. And I've showed it a lot of times, and this is like part 2, right? Elaine, I'd like to know your inspiration. So it's been about 20 years since G made this film, and I'd like to know, was there a moment in your life where you're teaching? Of course you are. And some moment came into your class where you thought, I could do this. I know you could do it all. She's a researcher, a prolific writer, a publisher, inspiration. She's won many awards. So Elaine, did you just want to add more to your list? And so what inspired you to make part 2?
Well, actually, Slaying the Dragon was made, it's a 16mm film, and it was made in 1988, sponsored by this nonprofit Asian women's organization that I belong to called Asian Women United of California. And we had a grant of $300,000 at that time, which is equivalent to about $800,000 today. It's really a really generous grant to do that film. But we couldn't really get a grant to do a sequel. And I thought it was important to do a sequel because I noticed that my students never heard of any of the movies that were in Slaying the Dragon. They kind of got the idea, but for them, William Holt, Marlon Brando, they all run together. You know, they didn't know who was who. They had never heard of Susie Wong. And Susie Wong is pretty central to that Slaying the Dragon. So then we thought, we really need to ask the question of whether or not things have really changed a lot and how they've changed now. So we just actually used a computer and a hand video camera and then Final Cut Pro and Handbrake, to make this. And that's why it looks like that, because I never made a film before, and I was kind of trying to learn on the fly. And so, but I really made it, we really made it for a classroom. That's why it's 30 minutes long. And it also has this little 10 or 12 minute director's footnotes on it, which are like little segments. Like there's one on transracial adoptees, because if you were a transracial adoptee and you saw that scene where Lucy Liu hugs her blonde father, you might not think it was so surprising. So we wanted to make, or why is Christine Gambino singing Jingle Bells when in the Philippines there's no snow? Or what about Asian popular culture, Korean drama, Bollywood cinema? And what about African American assistance and support of Asian American popular culture? So there are different little segments that are made for teachers to go into questions. Because I know that everything in the kitchen sink is in this film, because we tried to have South Asians, Filipinos, Koreans, Vietnamese, everybody in there, and then we tried to make sure there were men and women, queer and straight, everything. But for a classroom, we were hoping that it would be possible for people to just stop it and discuss it. And then, actually, all the proceeds for this video go to Asian Women United to make another video or another book. So we've been doing that all along. So Slaying the Dragon got royalties and stuff that we are used to making waves and making more waves.
Well, just this quick follow-up question, since a lot of you have not seen Slaying the Dragon. It is about stereotypes of Asian American women on screen. Usually they're depicted as dragon women or peasant, women, or strong wives, very submissive. I'd like just to briefly ask you about this second version, which I love, and especially the extras if you buy the DVD to give proceeds back. What are the 3 central themes that you think we should take away from the new stereotypes of Asian Americans? And I love, by the way, your music fusion as well into it. But are there 3 basic themes that you think we should be looking for as we're looking at these stereotypes and images?
I think that one is that Hollywood's treatment of Asian American women hasn't changed too much, but where it has changed, it's kind of what I would call deracination, which is that thing where you pretend that the Asian woman is actually a white woman, and it's just a replaceable part. And that doesn't mean that anybody wants to see a very Chinesey woman who's wearing a cheongsam and speaking only Chinese or any of that, or whose character is all about just being Chinese. But it's just that it would be great if there was a, sort of a realistic representation. And the second thing is domestication. I do think it struck me a lot that when there was a lot of Asian and Latino immigration in California, it didn't seem like a coincidence that Aladdin, Pocahontas, Mulan, all these films set long ago have nothing to do with the current situation in China or the Middle East, where there are all these sort of cutie characters in them, came out. So I think there was that kind of domestication. But the main thing is that Asian American production is really, I hope, it seems to be very fertile and very diverse, and really there's so much going on all the time that even if you do something right now, you still can't catch everything that's happening right now, or next year. So anything that we do in 2011 may be pretty obsolete by 2012. So the great thing is people can make their own YouTube commentaries or do whatever on it.
Thank you. Wow. Lynn, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I have like 18 questions in my head, so I'll just narrow it down to one.
Okay.
Can I ask you about this notion of the ambiguous Asian American? In other words, on screen we'll see, a person, the protagonist, who, like yourself, who is portraying a character. It's not necessarily Chinese or Korean or Japanese. You're just Asian. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So is this more for the notoriously 20,000 years of Asian countries hating each other, and now when we're in America, we should all love each other, be Asian American, so that we could, the Japanese will come, the Chinese Americans will come, etc.? Or is it more for the mainstream audience to have it more appealing? I was just curious what your thoughts would be, especially as an actor.
I would say that today, with a lot of the films that are being made, I think people are trying to consciously steer away from stories that have already been told. So, they don't want to repeat another story about somebody whose parents have come from another generation and the struggle with them. So they're trying to do something new, so they don't want to repeat themselves. And I think that's probably why you don't see any of their cultural background addressed in certain things. But as far as, I'm thinking specifically about television and that sort of thing, there's very few things written for women in general where there's a strong character or any sort of depth. So usually it's too much to ask for them to be Asian and intelligent and have a backstory and all these other complicated feelings. So that's what I think about that.
That's a great point. The depth and the complexity, which these roles that you probably are looking for. Do you purposely choose roles then that have more of the ambiguity? Or do you find more specific roles as Chinese/Asian American women?
To be quite honest, I don't really have a choice in the matter.
I wish you did.
Yeah, I wish I did too. Usually it's just, what's offered to me and it's as simple as what works out with my schedule and if I have the time and if the timing is right. But, there are definitely projects that I've said no to in the past that I feel like if I've already told that story, I don't need to repeat it again. It depends on a lot of different factors.
Thank you. Sheetal, thank you for coming out as well.
Thank you for having us on. Can you hear me? Oh, there we go. Never mind. We're good. Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you here to speak from the audience as well. We talk about, in the classroom, we talk about tensions. In relationships, there's tensions. One partner wants one thing and the other partner wants the other, and you're trying to balance or strike a balance. When it comes to acting, you want to practice your craft. This is your passion. This is what you want to do. And at the same time, we know, as we've been seeing, the film, that there are stereotypes and, there are a certain amount of roles that are available. How do you balance this tension of really wanting to practice your craft, have that depth, have that complexity, have the richness of that wine? As it ages, it gets, awesome. And balancing with, well, the role may not be the one I want, or...
Well, I don't do roles I don't want to do. So, if there's something that's presented to me that I don't connect to in whatever way, I'm not going to do it. And I know a lot of people that, obviously have different perspectives on that, and I respect all of them. But for me, at this point in my life, I just make a very conscious choice to only do things that excite me or that are challenging or, whatever. There's lots of elements. Like sometimes I want to work with another actor, sometimes I want to work with this director, or I want to do, we're all happy to do one little scene because I love that scene. So there's a variety of reasons why I'll do something. But if there's something that I read that for me doesn't connect, but it will connect to 100 other people, I feel like one of those 100 people should do it, because we all know how hard it is to make a movie. And if everyone isn't there doing it 100%, then there's an issue. So I only do things that I am very excited about. And that would be different at different points in my life.
Okay, at this point in your life,
yes.
Okay, I'm just curious, what is your criteria? Like, in your head, so you're getting a role, and is it because you're working with John Cho, or is it, you're working with this amazing director? Do you have a criteria in your head?
It starts with the script.
Okay. The story.
And then obviously, you read a script and you just kind of want to see if the script itself is a story that I want to be a part of. And then if that's a yes, then it's really, who would I be working with? How long will I be doing this? Do I want to spend 2 months with these people, with this character? So it's, again, all we have is our time. So where do you want to spend it?